Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 449 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Seth Fred Olive, and we have the full crew here this week, kicking things off with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How are you today, Richard?
Good morning, Seth. I'm distracted by Krim's clear box-like drink that he spilled all over the place, apparently.
Yep.
Don't worry about that.
Good time. We also have another co-host in Krim, who is, I don't know what Krim is up to at the moment, but good morning, Krim. How are you? How are you today?
The cap to my Jujutsu Kaisen water carton is in the ether now. So, all right.
Good luck with the cap issues.
That's Jujutsu Kaisen water?
No. It's a carton, and it's got like the characters on it.
Oh, it's like a water bottle or something.
Yeah.
And you filled it with water. Okay.
Yeah. It's really cool. For all you need to know, Seth, it's another anime, and it's about eating fingers.
Anime is the weirdest subject matter, I will say. Every time you tell me about an anime and what it's about, I'm just like, okay, anime, I got you.
For sure, eating fingers, I'm down.
Yeah, I will definitely turn that one on right away. Well, anyway, today we got some interesting topics. It was early access day a couple of days ago for Wilds of Eldraine, so we're going to talk a little bit about new standard, first impressions of Wilds of Eldraine. So we're going to get into that. We got a couple of little news updates, some Moto news, some Card Sphere news, which I kind of forgot Card Sphere was a thing, and then we got more Doctor Who spoilers. We want to get into some of those as well, and then answer your fish mail. Before we do, though, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. And if you ever want to skip all the hassles of buy listing, Card Conduit lets you do it. With their curated service, you can send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% fee. And if you want to do a little work, you can use the sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. Either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, it's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic, and let's start with new standard. So Richard, you didn't do early access of that, right? It was you haven't played any new standard yet.
I'm not cool enough to get invited to,
didn't
to
get
play
the
early
invite.
access. So as a scrub, I can just watch streams. That's all I can do.
Krim, though, I know you did some early accessing. I did a bunch of early accessing. What's your first impression of? So, okay, to kick this off, we should say early access is kind of unique. It's only best of one. A lot of people are trying new decks, so I try not to make like harsh judgments about the future of standard as a whole based on early access. But it is a good way to kind of like feel out new cards, see what felt good, what maybe didn't feel as good. So, what's your first impression, Krim, of new standard / Wilds of Eldraine?
First off, no matter how new the standard is or what new cards or how much people try not to build to try out new decks, I still played against Sheoldred a lot, which is good. Mm-hmm. It's not a bad thing. This is not a bad thing. That's as good because what else do you want to do other than test against the Premier 4-drop? Right? In all seriousness, it is a good thing. I mean, like, look, I love fun.
I would have chose have fun, but I guess testing against the Premier 4-drop is also pretty cool.
I thought that was fun. Okay, like because now I know what cards are, worthwhile, what's not, and so far first reaction to everything. Yeah, standard's gonna have a shakeup.
Really? Okay, so Krim played against a lot of Sheoldreds. What is dethroning the Sheoldred then, or what is shaking up standard that you've seen so far, you think?
Okay. What if I told you for 4 mana you can be in charge of the BNR announcement? The card is called The End. And I've exiled so many people's janky main win conditions. I've exiled so many Sheoldreds. Never had to worry about it again. Simply just hit it with the end. Of course, I've also been hit with the end. But luckily your boy doesn't play anything more than like 2 ofs of a lot of his cards. So, ooh, played around it, son. Krim, why do you always play singleton cards? This is why. No, like the end, for those that don't know, is 2 black or 2 colorless, 2 black. And what it does is it exiles a creature or planeswalker. Then you look through their hand, their graveyard, and their deck, and exile every other copy of it. And if you have 5 or less life, aka Fateful Hour, it costs 2 less, so just black. This has been the nuts. This card has been the nuts in Removal Town. I've just been like, again, it's just felt so good. It's such a powerful answer. And I actually think, as funny as it sounds, as much as it's going to be used to answer Sheoldred, it's also kind of a thing where I think black got stronger.
Yeah, so the other side of that is I've also just played against a lot of people that are just like beseech the mirroring into Sheoldreds, which seems like a very easy thing to do in Standard, thanks to like the Iron Crag, thanks to whatever the 3-drop rat is that makes rat tokens. Like bargaining is not very hard if you want to. People are using rolls to bargain off of, like the roll tokens. So I feel like I mean, I guess you need an answer like that, right? Because Sheoldred, I think, is going to show up way more consistently than it did before, because it's way easier to find now with like some of the best cards in the format. Like the bargaining Beseech the Mirror felt very strong to me. Like that was a card that every time I saw someone cast it, that card seemed kind of busted, even in Standard, which I think is where it's at its least powerful.
Speaking of bargling, you know, I've come to bargle with some Yargle. Okay, I actually am not playing any Yargle, but the point is, remember when we did the top 10 video, the 6-drop Realm Scorcher Hellkite?
Mm-hmm.
I played with that, and that card is gas. Holy smokes, that card is gas. My chat watched me like toast some people with it. All the rat decks that were going around were getting picked off because I just kept dealing 1 damage to everything. Like, dude, it's so sick. And then on top of that, like, playing with like Sarkhan Soul of Flame, turning him into Realm Scorcher Hellkite. For those that don't know, Realm Scorcher Hellkite, 4 red, bargain, flying haste. When it enters the battlefield, if it was bargained, add 4 mana in any combination of colors, pay 1 in a red, it deals 1 damage to any target, 4/6. So I can just make 4 mana. I cast at the end. I got rid of a Sheoldred, and then I swung to the face. I felt real good. Because I dunked on that opponent. Yeah, like, so that card, Charming Scoundrel, another Haymaker in red. That card, I never thought a Wily Goblin with haste is going to be one of the things I sing the praises of, because that card has been the truth as well, along with Decadent Dragon. Like, oh my god, this set has had so many powerful cards, and like the main thing here is checking to see if you can fight black. And these decks, I think you need black to then fight black because the end is so good. But like, I'm not joking. Like the end is the truth.
Let me summarize this conversation. So Krim opens with, the meta is changing, and then proceeds to rattle off all these black cards.
I named a bunch of red cards.
And then he named a bunch of red cards. So we're going back to Rakdos. We've never seen this combination before. Bloodtithe Harvester is getting a comeback.
Dude, it's the truth, man. And like there are new archetypes though. There's new combo too.
There's a new Rakdos mid-range to me, Krim. Are you calling it Rakdos Control?
So the question is always just like, how much does the experience from early access carry over to real Standard? That's always the question, because there are a lot of cool things, and I enjoyed early access a lot. There are like multiple combos. You can make like infinitely powerful creature lands with the turtle that reduces activated ability cost. There's infinite mana combos with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So there's a bunch of those things, and a lot of those things like are really cool when they go off, although I always have in the back of my mind as I'm doing those things like, but if I was playing real Standard and I was playing against like Farewell and Sunfall 30% of the time and Sheoldred 40% of the time, is my experience going to be the same? Are my combo pieces actually just going to like stick on the battlefield because my opponent's trying to play a bunch of rats for some reason? Or are they just going to be like killing and farewelling me all the time? So I really enjoyed the early access, and I'm always get hyped about the new archetypes, but I do still have that fear in the back of my mind that once people start like playing for real and breaking out the like top tier cards and decks, and they're not trying to rat me to death, that maybe some of the things that were really fun will not be as successful as they were in, you know, the rat meta.
I'll be honest with you, like, first off, like the rats deck isn't that bad.
I mean,
like,
it was early access. Yes, actually, like, it can go super wide really quick, right? So you can make a ton of tokens, you can go super wide, you have some like toxic payoffs or pumping them payoffs. But I did
Mishra.
not see anyone playing Farewell or Sunfall. I didn't see those cards once. I did not play against a single person playing like a control deck with those cards. And I feel like once we start playing against Ukrim, then the rat deck just goes away like in 2 days. It's gone.
Well, look, hey, who doesn't like a good exterminator? I'm here to answer the rat problem on Eldraine. But I will be honest with you. I don't know what your experience was like because, you know, different hours of the day, whatnot.
Yeah.
I played against a lot of Sheoldred, and I played against a lot of aggro. And so the problem here is, if I'm playing against mid-range, the Fairies deck that I played was the truth. Like, Sleep Cursed Fae with Likeness Looter, copy Sleep Cursed Fae for that. I just now have another 3/3 ward. I sat there, I countered everybody's spells, Spell Scorn. Well, sorry, I technically did not counter everybody's spells. I bounced it back to their hand because Spell Scorn Coven, another card that I was hyped on in spoiler season that did work. That uncommon was gas. And along with that, the Fairies package has looked really fun so far. I can't wait. That's going to be the first thing I can't wait to take into real standard in a format where I know everyone's going to play dirtily 4 to 5 drops. And that is where it's going to feel real good.
I think Fairies was the deck I played against the most yesterday. Like, I feel like every single person that played early access, and I started playing like right when it went live, so maybe it was like that was the first deck everyone played, but like every single person I played against, I think, has a fairy deck of some kind, which makes sense, I guess. Like, it's a pretty easy deck to like put the base of it together because you just put all the things that say fairy on them together and some Dimir lands and you like have a functional deck. So it made sense that you saw it a lot. I couldn't really get a sense of its power. Like, some games it looked really good and you get like the tempo plan and you get on the board early and you can like back it up with your counters and your like fairy Thoughtseize. Other games I was playing like some super jank, like infinite mana Agatha Soul Cauldron against the odds decks, and they were like Thoughtseizing me and countering, and they still just like lost to the jankiest infinite combos. So I couldn't really get a sense of the overall power level of fairies. How do you think it compares to like non-fairy Dimir midrange? Because I think that's the competition. The question is like, is it worth it to add like the fairies and the fairy payoffs into your deck? Or are you better off just playing like the generic Dimir cards, do you think? I think that's the real question.
So the generic Dimir cards are obviously going to be good. No questions there. But it is nice to know that you can get on the board early because, you know, the Dimir midrange deck relies on just dropping a 3-drop or something, beating you with it, and then holding up a counter spell as well, right? But you can deploy 2 3-drops, put them into the position of like, you know, now they have to be kind of in the control deck position, right? And you can take the role of the Dimir midrange where you sit back and you just hold up all your counters. You Thoughtseize them. Like it's not like I'm going to 100% win. And they managed to perfectly channel the fairies experience. You'll have to work your ass off to use both halves of your brain to get 45% win rate.
Yeah, that sounds like a bad deck to me.
No, dude,
is it budget rogues as I think Seth declared during spoiler season?
I think it's
mono
like,
blue,
like
Todigen-ish. Like where are we at with how it compares to its peers?
I like it more than mono blue.
Okay.
It's obviously not going to be like the rogues that was like, you know, Drown in the Lock, you know, you had Into the Story or whatever. You had some of the most powerful cards in that time. But I think this is a solid tempo deck. This is a solid tempo option that also had good game against mid-range decks. And obviously everything in like early access event, you take it with a grain of salt. But at the same time, you can kind of figure that how the deck works and how it plays just by goldfishing. And it feels good against dirtily decks.
How big of a problem is the lack of flash? Because that's one thing I know, because I played against this deck so many times, and it felt like there were some games where if my opponent didn't get on the board, and they had to be like tapping out empty boarded to play like my 3-mana 1/3 that loots eventually and stuff, like those are the games where it went really poorly. Like, do you think the lack of flash is a deal breaker for that deck being competitive? Because it's just like, you can't, like the rogues, you could just always leave up your mana and you could flash in any of your rogues, or you could counter, or you could card draw. Old school, like Lorwyn fairies are kind of like that too, where you just like never really tap out during your turn. Do you think the fact that you got to tap out during your turn like semi often is a problem for new fairies, or is it fine? You can work around it.
You can definitely work around it. There's a lot you can do in the early turns, especially like using Likeness Looter, as I told you. That plus Sleep Cursed Fae has been like one of the best, like one of the more powerful things I've been able to do. And then yeah, like the lack of flash didn't feel that bad. To be honest with you, I think that yeah, like it sucks. It's not like Rogues. The lack of flash is a little interesting, but it's not the worst, and still the deck functions quite nicely. And you just it's going to be a tough deck to play. It's not one that I'd recommend someone just play for fun. Like, because it's going to be a lot of thinking, and, you know, I've seen the percentages pay off where I play nice and I play tight. The fairy answers are great, like fairy fencing, ego drain, as I told you, or as you talked about, which is the Thoughtseize. And most importantly, I think one of the coolest cards that is criminally underrated because it is a 4-drop is Talion. I played against Mono Black. I named 4, and I watched them deplete themselves and actually be afraid to play Sheoldred because 5-drop Sheoldred is also 4. One thing people don't seem to forget is that Talion checks it in cost, power, and toughness. So it's in all of them. and against some of the aggro decks, I've also just named 2, and like they've just incinerated their own health total. And yeah, I just sit there with a grip.
Yeah, I saw a couple of Talions, and it looked okay. It didn't look bad. Like, if you have a reason to have fairies in your deck, I think it goes up in value. I think the real power of fairies is probably, like, you get a Thoughtseize. You get that removal spell that's actually pretty good if you have a fairy. Like,
fairy fencing.
Yeah, that's kind of the counter spell is also pretty good. So I think it's like those 3 spells are the reason to put fairies in your deck. I think if you're not playing those spells, they lose a lot of value because those are the cards that really power up the deck. I'm curious about Adventures. So Adventures is something I played a lot. I saw quite a bit from opponents as well. I came away from it feeling like the new adventure cards are really, really good, but I also came away from it feeling like, I don't know if there's like an adventure deck. Whenever I played an adventure deck, when I put all the adventures together, I ended up feeling like there's not really much of a payoff for that. Like, is there not really a reason to like jam them all together where they might be better just as like standalone cards in decks of their colors? Because I think a lot of them are the best cards in the set. You mentioned Decadent Dragon. I saw people playing the Otter in like Prowess decks. That looks good. The Druid that is like a reckless impulse that also turns into a questing Druid or whatever it is. Korean Druid. That was really strong. Mosswood Dread Knight was good. So all those like cheap adventure cards seem good, but do you think there's an adventure deck? Did you mess around with adventures at all, Krim?
I did. I played a Naya one, and it revolved around Pia Nalar, Consul of Revival. That card is red and a white. It's a 2/3 Thopters. You control a haste. Whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, get a 1/1 Thopter with haste. Or, I mean, a 1/1 Thopter with flying, but all your Thopters have haste. That, plus a few copies of Rocco, and it was cooking. I'll admit, trying Urabrask was a bit cute, but a lot of the new adventures, like the red one, the uncommon, I'm trying to remember the name. I gotta look it up. It's a creature that costs 1 less, equal to the number of instants and sorceries in your hand or in your graveyard.
Yep.
That card, Hearth Elemental
or something. Yeah.
Yes. So the adventure side, ditch your hand and draw 2 cards. Then this spell costs X less to cast, or X is the number of cards in your graveyard that are instants or sorcery cards and or have an adventure. It is a 4/5, and oftentimes it was just a 1-mana 4/5. I was dropping multiple spells in a turn, and multiple permanents. So, like, you know, I'm still not sure if I'm sold on whatchamacall the dude, Godric, but he seemed decent. And he was easy to turn into a 4/4 flyer in some aggro shells. So yeah, I did mess around with a good amount of it. Werefox Bodyguard, as good as promised. I mean, like, as good as advertised. I think that card was another stellar one. The fact that I could save my own stuff. 1 red, flash when it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 other target non-fox creature until it leaves the battlefield. Play 1 in a red, and then sack it, gain 2 life. Yeah, these cards were all real good. I think adventures, the problem is there's no lucky charm. There's no
there's
lucky
no
charm.
innkeeper, there's no lucky charm. So like there's not really a reason. I guess if you're gonna put all the adventures together, you're trying to like kind of scrounge around for like PNLR, like you said, or like the blue enchantment that looks really bad, Extraordinary Journey that lets you draw a card when you play creatures from exile or creatures come into play from exile. So rather than like the obvious like Edgewall Innkeeper super busted, Lucky Charm super busted, you're kind of scrounging around for these weird payoffs. Like that's kind of where I ended up with adventures. Like they felt like good cards, but I don't know if I necessarily want to play them all in the same deck or if I just play them where they happen to be good.
Adventures seem to shift gear.
Yeah, they're just generic cards this time around. They're like instants. You don't need to build only instants in your deck, right? They didn't make the payoffs explicitly, like the Edgewall Innkeeper and the Lucky Charm. So you just play them as value cards. There's no real reason to put them all in your deck, except for Pia, but that's a little reaching. So yeah, they're just a normal card type now. They're like, I don't know, MDFCs or something. You don't need to put all MDFCs in your deck, right? Like it doesn't really make any sense. You just put the good ones that you want in your color in. So that's what adventures are this time around. As opposed to the first time. The first time was like, here are adventures, they're super pushed. Here's the deck, here are the payoffs, like you can go ham. This time they're just value cards.
I think I was really impressed with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. I think that might actually be like the best card in the set, or maybe second best behind Beseech the Mirror. I think that card is way better than people have realized at this point. Like, you do got to build around it to some extent, but the counter synergies, there's a lot of pieces for that in Standard. The activated ability stealing ends up being more relevant than you'd think, even if you're not comboing with it. And then it's also just graveyard hate, which is relevant in some matchups too. So it's not something you can just jam in any deck, but I think the power level of that card was way higher than I expected it to be. I was thinking, oh, this is going to be kind of like a janky fun combo piece, but I actually think it might be a legit constructed card. I was messing around a little bit with like artifact aggro with you have the +1/+1 counter synergies. You have the Ozlith to be a hardened scales in Standard. You have all the cookie stuff. You have Sir Ginger. You add all that stuff together and you actually end up with a very strong aggro deck, I think. So I think Agatha's Soul Cauldron is a card that might be a bit of a sleeper for me in Standard that maybe people aren't realizing are good. I also played a lot of rolls. Did you play the roll mechanic at all? The rolls are interesting. I think the payoffs are really good, and I think it might be like stronger than I thought, but I'm not sure if the deck actually, it kind of just felt like an aggro deck. Like I'm just kind of like putting a bunch of creatures on the battlefield and hoping for the best. So there wasn't a lot of synergies or tricks, but the payoffs I thought were very strong for the roll deck.
I mean, there was like Spiteful Hexmage, you know, that card plus like
that card's better than I thought. Like
Lord Skitter's Blessing.
I had kind of forgotten that with the rolls, you can only have one of them. So when I read Spiteful Hexmage, I was like, oh, it curses itself. It's just a 1/1 for 1. But then if you follow that up with, like you said, Lord Skitter's Blessing, you kind of legend rule away the bad roll and get the good one. And then you have like a 4/3 on turn 2 that's like beating down. So I think that card's actually a lot better than I had really thought.
Yeah. But like, is it good, right? Is that like, 'cause I mean, is it good? That's the question. And I felt like that was the exact curve you needed. And if they had an answer to it, like as you casted anything, it was like you were gassed out so hard.
One thing that did not impress me was bunny shenanigans. That was a deck a lot of people are asking me about, is like, oh, Regal Bunny Corn, like make a ton of tokens. Like even during early access day, it felt like kind of a stretch to actually make that good. Although I did have one person that had triple Pollen Shield Hair in their like 3 Blind Mice wedding announcement deck and just like cast all of them and killed me out of nowhere. So that was actually kind of impressive. But the token strategy I was kind of disappointed in. Like the make a bunch of tokens, play a bunny corn, it didn't really work from what I saw. Did you see anyone actually make that successful, Krim?
No, I mean, I casted the end and they never had another Regal Bunny Corn. I played full 4 to the end. Like, yeah. And like on top of that, most of the time it just felt like it didn't have trample. However, you know what I did get dumpstered by randomly? I was playing a bad deck, but it's okay. I was playing the Boros Emodane like burn deck using like Nahiri's Warcrafting to try to burn them for 5, which was great when it worked. But You know what 5 damage isn't good against? A Sultai deck that dredges super hard and then plays a giant new Tarmogoyf then gave it trample.
It's gonna happen. This is the set. We finally get the graveyard deck. How do they give it trample though? Would they audacity it or something? What's a trample in that plan?
There's a 4/3 with backup, and it has trample.
Oh god!
And I'll tell you what. I could not beat that. Well, I was playing a burn deck, so yeah. Oh, I'm very curious. Did you run into anyone look, I think this person's humor is hilarious. I love them. Rankle's Pranks. It's just a joke, bro. Like that guy. That card is the truth, right? Have you played against it?
Rankle, I did not play with or against Rankle's Pranks. Where did you play Rankle's Pranks?
So I played a kind of a blue-black deck that used like Invasion of Amonkhet, and it went a little like kind of if you could go standard 8-rack-esque. I mean, I literally played Invasion of Eldraine or whatever, the one where they ditch 2 and then it's a rack on the backside.
I was wondering what the payoff is for trying to do the rack stuff in standard. So is that the only payoff for like getting your opponent empty-handed?
I mean, there's just literally beating them down.
Yeah, like I mean, I guess your opponent having no cards is always good.
Yeah.
So it's not going to hurt.
Between that and Invasion of Amonkhet, Liliana, I had the Raven Man. That dude definitely died most of the time. But like, because he's an X1. But outside of the Raven Man, like just like Windmill Slamming, Lord Skitter, Sewer King, which has been proven to be real good. It's weird. I don't know if it's better than Trespasser, but it is a very strong 3-drop, as it does just take over games. But yeah, I played like Rankle's Pranks with like Spellscorn Coven, Invasion of Amonkhet, Liliana, Blade Coil Serpent, which was bugged, by the way. It always had haste, even though you never paid red.
Oh, that is kind of busted.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, it just always had haste trample on it when it entered the battlefield. But yeah, like all of that, and it was really solid. The games where, like the Black Mirrors, where I imagine your opponent's grinding down and you're down to 2 cards, you make them each ditch their 2 cards. We both ditch 2. We both like sack 2 creatures, and then it's like the first person to cast Rankle's Prank. It just feels like you were leagues ahead. You were just leagues ahead.
I don't know if I'm
Why
seeing.
would you be ahead though? Doesn't that just reset it to like a top deck war? Because you also discard 2 cards, right? So like everyone's just empty-handed. But you both sack 2 creatures and you both lost 4 life. So you're just
you don't have to choose that. You just don't have to choose the sack 2 creatures, right? It's so flexible.
Okay.
Right? Like the point here is it's whatever you need it to be. Obviously, the burn in a mid-range mirror or whatever, I'm definitely trying to get ahead. I've won games with that too after seeing Tenacious Corndog pop off, come back, they keep chipping away, losing 2 life. But once I was able to establish a board, I just made us ditch cards. And then they were in top deck mode while I had all these threats. So I think, and then I also saw people playing mono black with Rankle's Prank as well. And don't get me wrong, I also got hosed by Rankle's Pranks because I was just like, oh man. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I had double Sheoldred, you know, and I was not feeling too good after that.
Oh, Crim. Oh, you were playing Sheoldreds on early access day.
Of course.
That's like an unwritten rule. That's an unwritten rule of early access.
You need to know what combos well with Sheoldred, okay?
Like, yeah,
Rankle's Prank is the truth.
Rankle's Prank, like, answered me quite efficiently and then ate my hand. So yeah, I don't know. It's
the
weird.
rack deck sounds interesting. Like it seems like a pretty clean reset if you play it on 4, choose all the modes. Like you just clean the board, clean everyone's hand, and then somehow you win the top deck battle, which I'm not sure how you
have Lily. It doesn't hit planeswalkers.
But Lily's so bad.
That's what you think until, you reset their board.
So I also saw Lord Skitter be really good. I don't think it replaces Graveyard Trespasser because it dies a lot easier than Graveyard Trespasser, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Lord Skitter show up alongside Graveyard Trespasser in some of the top tier black decks. I think it is strong enough to like be a competitive card in Standard. That card really impressed me. Like the body is fine, the synergies of it are fine. I don't know if Rats will actually make it as a deck. I'm still a little skeptical. I'm not sure what the payoff for that is either, but I do think Lord Skitter in specific is really good. Is there anything
payoff
else?
is Rankle. You sack the Rats.
Oh god.
I'm not even joking. Like I did do that. So
That sounds actually
I
pretty
think-
legit, actually.
Rats deck, don't know if it's real either, but I can tell you that without Rats, I think I called Skrelv's Hive Skitter Blossom, but this is literally Skitter Blossom. So and then on top of that, Skitter Blossom is the truth. And then Song of Totentans. I don't know if Rats is a good thing, but the fact that Song of Totentans is X red, create X/1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature can't block. Creatures you control gain haste. So I can just make X 0 and all my creatures have haste. This could be sweet in a Naya tokens deck. You know, we still have Jetmir, we still have all these things. I really liked it as a card. It's a solid aggro card.
So it'll be interesting. So I guess final thoughts on our first impressions of Wild of Eldraine. I really like this set. I think the set is really good. I'm still very concerned about what Standard's going to look like. I'm less hopeful than Crim that we're going to see a mass shakeup and like Standard look wholesale different. I think there's a chance
wait,
the new cards, but I'm sorry, did I?
Let's not say that I think it's going to be a wholesale shakeup. I just think that these cards are going to get played.
Okay.
There's going to be cards are definitely getting played from this set.
Well, I think we'll see some. Yes, I think we'll see some cards he played from this set. I would agree with that. So I don't know if I think we're going to see like the top tier of the meta like completely shaken up because of this set, but I do think there's a lot of new options, and I really enjoyed playing with the cards. I think the set has a lot of like just really synergistic, fun cards to play. So I guess I hope that they show up a lot in Standard because I think they're like a lot of just really interesting designs. Like even the cards that didn't work, I really wanted to make like Hilda work and I just couldn't make it work because Hilda always dies and that card's probably bad. But it's a really cool like card to try to build around and make work. And I feel like there's a ton of cards from this set. So I'm pretty happy with how the set landed overall. Still a little I still think they should have just banned Sheoldred. That was my other impression of early access was like, you should have just banned stupid Sheoldred.
The end is going to save us, right? Because you can't play 4 Sheoldreds and get the ended out of the game. So now you play like 2 Sheoldreds and 2 other 4-drops that are like just kind of like Sheoldred so that you don't get the ended out of the game. Like I think that actually might be the answer to diversifying the 4-drop slot, right?
Maybe. Wasn't Eradicate like a card multiple times in Standards past? Was this like, I'm not sure why people are so gung-ho about the end.
Because
like,
this removes
is like
the creature on the battlefield, right?
Yeah,
like, a
it
lot
does
of times
something to
it's
the
more
board.
of it's like a, I don't know, like a surgical effect or like name a card effect, and you take it out like the Brainstone. This is just 4 mana removal that also ensures that they're not drawing it ever again. And I guess it could be 2 mana removal if Fateful Hour or whatever is on, but
Yeah.
But I mean, I would be a little nervous playing like if my deck was just random mid range and 4 Sheoldreds as the win con. I'd be a bit nervous about this. So either I have to counter this on the way down, or make sure I'm playing like 3-1 split, 2-2 split of my 4-drops to make sure the game doesn't end, right? Because remember, we're like grindy mid range mirrors. Like the game will go long, your Sheoldreds will die. You need it not to die to the end, and you do not want to fire off your own removal spell to kill your Sheoldred against the end to fizzle there at the end. Does it even fizzle? It fizzles, right?
Yeah, it does.
Okay,
Now-
yeah, so
now-
you can
exile,
protect your
then it
Sheoldred
fizzles.
by killing your Sheoldred, but like you don't want to
Yeah.
be doing that. So you
You
might
now
just
have
play
to-
random other 4-drops just to diversify your 4-drop slot. So maybe this
People can't just free
somehow
roll
saves.
play Sheoldred out there anymore, right? Like before it's doopy doop 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 doop, and then turn 4, just roll Sheoldred out. Who cares, right? If you have answer, I have multiple. You can't do that anymore because if you Sheoldred first and you don't have a way to kill it, and they cast the end on you, your best win con's gone, like Richard said. You'll actually have to play the game.
doesn't it actually wreck like Esper more because those decks try to only win with Wandering Emperor? Like if your Wandering Emperor gets sniped, aren't you just like literally
those
trying to like mill him
planeswalkers,
out or something? Like I feel like Esper has to rebuild pretty much to play against the end, or else it's too risky.
I mean, fully agree as well, right? Like the end is my hot take is not really. I don't even know if it's a hot take anymore, but I think in about a few months we're gonna be tired of the end. This card is gonna be talked about. It's gonna be talked about because people's best win cons are exiled.
It's so toxic. I don't know why they like. It's one of
so
those things
good.
that you don't want because you're like, ooh, I built a new deck around the Screecher, and then you like just get it removed from your deck entirely, and you have no recourse. You're like, wow, that was not the experience I wanted, right? Like, so I'm surprised they make these kind of effects.
It is 4 mana, so I think like it is not super efficient. So I think you really got to be planning to exile the Sheoldred or something. Like you wouldn't just play it for value, right? I feel like there's a risk that you fall into the like
case an
surgical
aggro deck
extraction.
set,
You
you're
know,
under 5 life already. It's fine. It's
Yeah,
3 mana
aggro decks
removal.
actually help you make it efficient. So
It's fine. It's fine. Then you remove their thing and then you Sheoldred back your life total afterwards. It's okay. It's okay.
Is there any hope for aggro, Krim? Like, is there anything we saw from early access day that makes us think? Because if you look at the meta, it's like very grindy, very mid-rangey, very control-y. Anything that stuck out, like, okay, maybe aggro can actually like jump up into the top of the meta.
it's gonna probably revolve around Song of Totentans and Godric.
Godric is really good. That card was
Yeah.
very impressive and scary, and it like naturally synergizes with more than I realized. It works with Charming Scoundrel and any roll stuff. The timing works up with the Faces of Kazan or whatever that 1 mana saga is. Like if you play that on 1, it's gonna flip on 3 to give you the 4/4 Godric. So I think Godric is probably mono red's like savior for this set. I think that's like the really, really big addition for the deck.
That card, I felt like, is one of the things that overperformed. Some of the cards that I think, I have a few that definitely underperformed.
What underperformed for you?
So underperformed was currently Twinning Twins. Just not enough to really flicker and like take full advantage of. And I don't know.
Did you
the
build a
4-drop body
Panharmonicon deck though, Krim?
lightly.
Okay.
I mean lightly, and it was okay. It was like I thought it was going to be like absolutely the nuts, and maybe I had the wrong build. But like it was just okay. I will say that a lot of the creature lands was a bit awkward because they were in color pairings that, like, I felt like the set mostly wanted to be 2 colors that weren't in creature lands. When you right, like it's like, well, cool. I could add red to make my fairies deck have a creature land. You know what I mean? Or I can add white.
Yeah. That's true. I guess I mostly saw them and played them in 3-color decks. So I think you're right. Yeah, the 2-color combinations, or there's not like a Demure one, which would be a really good 2-color combination, or a blue-white one. So yeah, it is kind of awkward color combinations for 2-color decks.
Yeah, like that was a bit awkward. But yeah, if you want to, like aggro, I mean, you already have the colorless 2/2 land from Brothers War, so just keep playing that. But otherwise, Godric has looked pretty impressive. And Charming Scoundrel can be aggro. It can be in ramp. It could be in whatever plays red. I just think that card is so good. That card, we rated it pretty highly, and it's as promised.
Yeah, that card's definitely very, very good. Hard to go wrong with a 2/2 haste with a bunch of upside. So, well, anyway, the set release is in full tomorrow. So after y'all get to play it, let us know what you think. I will be excited to see what the format looks like, and maybe the end is the savior. Maybe that's gonna put an end to Sheoldred's reign. So we will see. It'll be very exciting to see how things shake out here. But the set, I will say, it's super fun. So if you're interested, give it a try. I've also heard, I didn't do any drafting, but everyone I talked to who was doing drafts during early access really thought the format was really fun, with the bonus sheets and some really cool synergies coming from the Enchanted Tales. So it seems like it could be a really good limited set as well. But let's move on, hit up a couple other topics. So two brief pieces of news, and then we got to talk about some spoiler action. So first, I got to ask you about this question. I just need an answer to if you like this or not. So Wizards announced, actually no, Daybreak Games announced that they're going to be adding some Infinity cards to Magic Online. One of those Infinity cards is Blank Goblin. It's the goblin that when it ETBs, you get a name sticker, and then you make mana equal to the number of vowels in that sticker. The problem is they can't actually do stickers on Magic Online. It's not built for that. So they tried to like do this mathematical thing where you're gonna roll a d20 and tried to like take what the average amount of mana you get based on optimal sticker sheets and either get 4, 5, or 6 mana based on your roll. What do you think about this? Like, so this isn't exactly the same as how the card plays in paper. There's some differences that Legacy players have pointed out. You know how much mana you're getting ahead of time. This you don't know until it enters the battlefield. There's some weird situations there. Do we like this? Like, would you rather have Blank Goblin on Magic Online and kind of hacked form to make it function? Or would it be better to not have it at all?
Is it a Legacy playable card?
Is it played anywhere? Yeah.
Do we care about this card?
There are some, I mean, it produces mana. So there have been combo decks and goblin decks that have actually used it in Legacy. It's not like a staple by any stretch, but it has actually showed up in like competitive lists.
I mean, this is alchemy. This is a digital rebalance, right? And there's some confusion with that, right? Because you kind of expect the card to do what the paper version does.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's worth putting this card online. Like, I think it would be better to just be like, look, there's this one card we don't support, right? We can have the rest of Infinity, rather than creating this different card that people are not expecting. This is the first for Moto, right? This is the first time we've had a card on Moto that does not reflect the paper version. So
yeah.
given our knowledge of Alchemy's reception, I think that they would have been wise to just not put this online. Like, and especially if Legacy players are like, well, this card is actually different, we can't play it, then like I don't know what we've accomplished. Like, I think they wanted to put this online for Legacy players, but
yeah,
it's kind of different. So then therefore does it really do its thing? So I don't know. I think it's better to just skip it.
Just leave it. I feel like, yeah, I've been really on the fence about this. I think like the issue is stickers have just proven themselves to be like a worst of all time mechanic. What a horrible mechanic in every way. They didn't play well on paper. Casual players don't really like them. They're messing up digital play. And they made them black border, and then the set still didn't sell. And now they aren't probably going to make more unsets because it flopped so hard. So it was just like, is there any redeeming qualities to this mechanic? I think that's my takeaway is, boy, think through these mechanics before you put them out there, because this one just seems like all downside, no upside in every possible way. So I really blame
for
like,
your laptop, Seth.
Yeah.
You could use the stickers in a non-Magic the Gathering environment.
Yeah, okay. I guess that is an upside. I will give them to my little nephew or something. They'll love them. So
you can put googly eyes
they would.
on
That's
things.
that's amazing. Uncle Seth gave me a sticker. He just says goblin on.
It won't stick to anything, and you'll probably lose it because it's tiny.
It'll-
But
That's right.
hey,
You didn't even stick on
have
the
fun,
cards.
kid. Have fun. Also, news before we get to our spoilers. Cardsphere is closing. Actually, I don't know if any of you, did you ever use Cardsphere? It was like one of the card trading apps that was at some points kind of popular, but apparently they're closing down. So I guess that's worth noting. Shutting down November 1st, 2023. Trades being shut down ahead of time as they're kind of like slowly shuttering. So sad to see Cardsphere go, but the Magic market keeps changing. So I don't know. Do people even trade cards anymore? I feel like trading is like a relic of the 90s or something.
Like, hey,
people
walk
do?
up to you, pat, like, yo, you got any trades? And can I see your trades? Like that? Okay.
Yeah, you got your binder? Yeah. Where's your
You got
binder?
games on your
true?
phone?
Is trading no longer a thing? Do people?
I mean,
like,
let's be honest. Like, the idea that trading does happen, but like, I don't know. I mean, I think only thing here is like, which this is a good thing. People got smarter about how they traded.
Yeah, I guess, maybe
That's
a
a
lot
good
of
thing.
the
What
old
does that
trades were just someone getting scammed because they didn't know
Yeah.
the value of their cards and someone was taking advantage of them because they did know the value of their cards. So maybe that's part of it.
old trading was like 99% of the time. It's just like, well, let me try to get you by like 50% or so. Like, you know what I mean? Like something along those lines. And
y'all so cynical. We are a trading card game before Magic Arena. You build your Kithkin deck and you're like, I don't want to play Kithkin anymore. Let me trade my Farewell or something to get a red card and then build a red deck.
Of equal value.
Yeah, of equal value. Or I think the internet broke this, but like it didn't even matter, right? As a kid, right? Like if you traded a Underground Sea for a Shivan Dragon, you were probably very happy with it because you're like, oh my god, Shivan Dragon. Even though in hindsight you're like, wow, you got fleeced so hard, right? But well, it's just a card game, right? And you have more fun with Shivan Dragon. And you actually had no concept of value back then. It's not like one person actually knew the card was more expensive than the other one, right? You just traded, right? But I don't know. So we're no longer a trading card game. Like, I
think the internet kind of killed it. I still see people trade on occasion, like at events or something. I've had people walk up and be like, "Hey, do you got a binder? You want to trade?" But not as much as it used to happen like 5 or 10 years ago. I think now it's just so easy to get the cards you want from Card Kingdom or from eBay or from TCG Player. Like,
so you just eat the buy list difference.
If I need a card, I
fees?
don't need to find someone else to trade me that card. I can just get it on my phone in like 30 seconds and it'll show up in the mail in a couple days. So it's just like way less hassle and less effort to do it that way, I think.
It's kind of sad.
It is.
You
it is
lug around
sad.
like 30 pounds of cards. You got trades.
Yeah.
What are you looking for? Then you spend like 20 minutes browsing like every common they have in their binder for some reason.
Richard, are you trying to have neck muscles on your neck muscles? Why are you trying to haul around 45 pounds everywhere you go?
Because someone might want the card. You got to bring every card. They all got to be.
Yeah, you never. I think
that was the charm of Magic the Gathering. No, you're like, here's some cards. I could swap one deck for another deck, but I guess we just buy list or card conduit now. I guess that's true, right? That's what we do. Or we just buy singles. The days of affording a booster box are over, so you don't have like random cards to get rid of anymore.
Yeah, you're not gonna have like you're buying singles for a deck that you want, so you're gonna have less leftovers that you want to trade away. I think too. So I think the whole multiverse has just shifted away from trading essentially. But anyway, Cardsphere going away. Last big topic of the day. We got more Doctor Who spoilers. Doctor Who coming out in October, but we slowly have the spoiler drip. I think actually the most recent spoilers, it seems like were an accident. Like the BBC posted them, and then like a few hours later, the tweet got taken down. So I assume that meant they weren't supposed to post them. It kind of, can you imagine Watsy like calling the BBC and telling them to take a tweet down? That's the best part of that whole scenario. But anyway, Richard, why don't you guide us through a couple of these spoiler cards?
Okay, so we haven't talked about much Doctor Who because they've been kind of interspersed everywhere, and Eldraine was happening. But we're gonna cover a couple more Doctors that we haven't talked about, and then the Doctor's Companion mechanic, I think. So we've talked about the 10th Doctor, I believe. So we have the 4th Doctor, which is Simic, 4 mana, 4/4. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. Once each turn, you may play a historic land or cast a historic spell from the top of your library. When you do, create a food token. What? Is Bilbo Baggins? Like, what? Why do we make a food randomly out of this card?
He's a hungry doctor, apparently. I do not know Doctor Who lore. I ran into some big trouble with this Actually,
Weeping
look
Angel.
at this card. Look at this card real quick. Richard, look up this card. What is the name of this card? It's Wayward Angel? Weeping Angel. Look at Weeping Angel. Look at the art on that card. Why does this creature not fly? Isn't that the most obvious flying creature you have literally ever seen in your life? But then
it's a
shackled to the ground. I don't know.
Doctor Who.
It's an alien angel. Your rules of flight do not apply to the alien world, Seth. Just because you have wings.
I mean, that card is by far one of my favorite things ever, flavor wise. The fact that it doesn't fly makes sense, but that's because I know I watch Doctor Who.
I mean, have you seen a chicken? It also has wings. It can also flex about like that, and they do not fly.
Yeah. I like this
Seems
though,
accurate.
Oh my
for those
God.
that do know the lore, let's read Weeping Angel. 1 blue-black flash, first strike, vigilance. Whenever an opponent casts a creature spell, Weeping Angel isn't a creature until end of turn. If Weeping Angel would deal combat damage to a creature, prevent that damage, and that creature's owner shuffles it into their library. So in the show,
do exactly.
It's like
in
a
the
weird
show,
removal spell, basically.
It's like pretty much Death Touch. It's like Death Tuck, if you would.
Basically, yeah.
It tucks the other creature. It tucks not itself. Okay, I was like, I'm so confused as to what it was doing. Okay, so you deal combat damage to something, and that thing like shuffles into its owner's library.
Right.
Yeah, so you flash it in, block something attacking.
But then
you,
if they
first
cast a
strike,
creature spell, this thing turns off.
It's just an artifact, yep. So it's really only good once, probably. The turn you flash it in, you should be able to get something in combat, but then in the future, your opponent can kind of play around it by casting creatures. But sorry, Krim, you're on a lore, Doctor Who lore. What does this mean in Doctor Who lore?
Okay, so in the show, it moves exponentially faster. It like literally blinks and it moves when you don't look at it.
Oh, isn't
so
that like the toys in Toy Story? Like basically the same thing, right? If you don't look, they come alive. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I got it. Oh, I love this card now. That makes perfect sense.
It's like Chucky. It's like I was thinking
Squid Game. The thing you have to turn around.
Oh yeah, red light, green light in Squid Game.
Yeah. This card is red light, green light on a card, and in the world of like Doctor Who, if you look at it, it doesn't move.
So what about Richard's card? Is this
is the fourth Doctor so underwhelming that we don't care about it whatsoever?
I mean, so it's limited only to historic spells. You only get to cast one each turn. I guess I like that you can play lands. That's kind of cool.
I mean, it's got to be good in a historic deck, right? Like something that plays legendary, like a Sisay deck or something.
Oh, in the night. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're playing like a legendary deck, then it's good. I don't know if I'm hyped about playing as my commander, but in a legendary themed deck or a historic themed deck, it'd probably get in the 99.
Wait, you said the 10th Doctor.
The fourth Doctor.
The one that lets you cast or play a historic spell. Okay, top of your library, and then randomly create a food when that happens.
I was wondering what you're talking about. Because like that's Simic. Not the 10th Doctor. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, no, I like this is not any. This isn't. I don't know. I personally think it's okay. I don't know if I want it as a commander either, but it is cool to see. I mean, I recognize the scarf.
Krim likes the scarf. Okay,
it's iconic.
He likes the lore. He likes the lore.
It's iconic.
Are you a like Doctor Who fan, Krim? I didn't realize. I didn't know you were a Doctor Who fan.
I liked everything from the 9th Doctor forward up to I think the 13th Doctor, whatever Peter Capaldi was.
Oh.
So I watched that. I watched a lot of it at a point. So for me, the 10th Doctor hits. And the 13th Doctor, I watched like halfway through that. So yeah, actually no, I watched after Peter Capaldi because 13th Doctor.
All right. Well, speaking of 13th Doctor, are all the Doctors Simic? Because there's a second Simic Doctor, 3 mana 2/2. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Team TARDIS at the beginning of your end step, untap each creature you control with a counter on it. This is the Adventure Commander, I guess, or the Foretell Commander.
I mean, cast from exile. For this set, I think the theme is suspend, so I think that's like why they're making it that way. But yeah, suspend, adventures, any of the like Prosper cards that are in the Simic colors, but anything that worked with Prosper, like casting from exile, would work with this.
Turns out the Time Lords and all of Doctor Who, they talk about the Dalek and all of these terrible creatures, but really it's just Droneth Magistrate that dumpsters you.
Okay, these Doctors seem a little underwhelming, maybe. Right? We're like, maybe good in the 99, but I don't want them as my commander. Well, fear not. Wizards has you covered. There's a new mechanic called Doctor's Companion, and they are legendary creatures that you can have as your additional commander if the other commander is a doctor. So they're kind of like partners, but they're really more like backgrounds, right? If you have a doctor as your commander, you can choose a Doctor's Companion as a second commander. So you get more abilities in your command zone. We'll kick things off with Donna Noble, 3 in a red, 4 mana, 2/4. Soul Bond. You may pair this creature with another untapped creature. When either enters the battlefield, they remain paired for as long as you control both. When Donna or a creature it's paired with is dealt damage, Donna deals that much damage to target opponent. So like
Donna does
doll,
not mess around.
It's kind of like a
Soul
stuffy
Bond.
doll. Yeah, it's like a stuffy doll that not indestructible or whatever, but it is cool. I like this as a way to power up these sort of underpowered doctors. Like that's a kind of a neat way to go around it, doing this pseudo partner thing. Also nice that it lets you splash a color, like the 13th Doctor, whatever. We're talking about casting from exile would be a good way to like power this up. Well, if you play Donna Noble, then you play all the red stuff that exiles a card each turn and lets you play it. So I think that's going to make these commanders a lot more powerful than they look at first glance.
I mean, yeah, like I like these companions, but that's just because, yeah, again, flavor wise, they're very cool.
What is the flavor? They're like the Robin. They're like the sidekick to the Doctor, but not a Doctor.
Every new Doctor has a new companion, so somebody that just follows them. Like Rose Tyler is the 10th Doctor's companion. So I do have an affinity for them, but I realize they don't have Matt. Or maybe they do.
So they're meant specifically for a Doctor. So you're saying Rose Tyler is supposed to synergize with the 10th Doctor, is what you're.
Well, like yeah, like you do, Rose does eventually, like the 10th Doctor, like, you know, again, Rose goes with the 10th Doctor. Then you have like Matt Smith who has his companion. You know, like so yeah. I'm excited to see what other. I'm assuming there's going to be more more Doctors companions. I'm kind of curious to see.
Well, we have 3 of them, presumably, that match the 3 Doctors. Well, Krim can tell us. Sarah Jane Smith, white, 2 mana, 2/1. When you cast a historic spell, investigate. This ability triggers only once each turn. Presumably, this is the 4th Doctor's companion.
No. The 4th Doctor's companion, because I didn't watch 4th Doctor, but I have to assume it's Sarah Jane Smith. Just because of the wardrobe and the attire.
Yeah, so, because it triggers off historic spells, and the 4th Doctor is all about historic spells. So presumably they're the pairing, right?
Yeah, and then like Donna technically could be like is also the 10th Doctor's other companion.
Oh, they got multiple companions.
Yeah. So
are we
Donna
spoiling?
Noble,
Did something happen to the previous companion? Oh, we better not.
We've ruined Doctor Who for
everyone. I haven't watched Doctor Who yet, Krim. Have I been ruined?
No, it's totally fine. I mean, like, I just want to see Amy Pond and Matt Smith, Matt Smith's Doctor, aka the 11th, but I don't think we're gonna get that. So, sad. But yeah, like the 10th Doctor's my favorite, and then Yasmin is also the 13th Doctor's companion. So they all kind of, it's essentially 3 color decks is what you're getting. You're getting Jeskai, you're getting Bant, and you're getting Teamer. And then you have Grixis.
What do you guys think of this new partner thing of like jamming more stuff into the command zone?
I mean we've already seen
sailed. The ship has sailed at this point. Like, I'm glad that Wizards is wise enough not to just be sticking partner on these cards. The Wizards has learned that, at least. The experiments with like various partner with or Doctor's Companion, I think it's fine. Partners are already the most impactful version of this mechanic, I think. Yeah, I don't think Wizards is going to top them, or they're not going to try to top them. So I think it's pretty harmless at this point if you want to make Doctor's Companion or whatever, because it can't be more busted than the original partners were, I don't think.
Okay. And then one last card before we leave Doctor Who. This one is kind of intriguing. It's a saga. The Girl in the Fireplace. 2 and a white. The first stage is create a 1/1 white human noble creature token with Vanishing 3. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to this creature. The second saga is create a 2/2 white horse creature token with doctors you control have horsemanship. And then 3 is whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player this turn. Time travel.
I feel
horsemanship
like
is back.
I feel like this is a card that if you're a Magic player who doesn't know Doctor Who, it looks so weird, because it looks super weird to me. But I bet if you're a big Doctor Who fan, you love this. You're like, oh my God, that reference, that's like this perfect explanation of something that happened in this one episode I saw once. So I don't get it, but I bet if you're like a Doctor Who, do you get it, Krim? Is this from an episode that you know?
It's been a long time since I've seen
Okay.
Doctor Who, so I'm like staring at these and I'm like really trying to like remember, pick at my brain because I watch a lot of things, yeah, the Girl in the Fireplace. I can't remember what this is.
So this is actually, so I just Googled this. There's an episode of Doctor Who called The Girl in the Fireplace. It was season 2, episode 4. So apparently it is actually the episode name from
So this is like Smaug or whatever from Lord of the Rings, right? It's telling the story in a single saga.
Yep.
Well,
I love
don't spoil
sagas.
the episode if you haven't watched Doctor Who, right?
Horses are involved apparently, according to Wikipedia. So it probably is like the perfect flavor card. I imagine if you watch the episode, it's going to make a lot of sense. So
When does Doctor Who release? It should be
October.
In a month or two, right?
Yeah, October. I don't remember the exact date. The middle of October, though. So yeah,
I gotta get my Doctor Who watching game on. I was planning to watch a couple episodes.
Apparently, you gotta watch Blink. That's the one everyone says, and then the Weeping Angel.
That's a good
makes
one.
sense to you if you watch
Yeah,
that episode.
that's a really
everyone
good one.
says.
It looks kind of scary though. Don't want to watch this.
The Wings.
Is this a horror? I don't know.
It's campy. Don't worry. Like maybe Weeping Angel might be a little spoopy, but like I would say that for the most part, I mean, if you think about it, like in the show, Daleks have a plunger for a hand, dude. They straight up have a plunger for a hand. It's campy. So it's super campy sci-fi, and if you're down with that, then you'll have a great time.
Is this like X-Files? Is this
no.
No.
X-Files I think was like genuinely kind of scary, but also camp. But like this is like pure camp. Like the meter is just fully overblown into the campy side, and that's why it's fun. So it's just like pure nonsense. You know who would love to talk about this? I bet would be the Prof. The Prof loves.
Does the Prof love Doctor Who?
And he's watched probably like all of them, like every single one. I'm like a middle child Doctor Who, where I watched the like the later seasons, and then dropped off. So this is totally
I thought Seth would watch
thing.
Doctor Who. It seems like some kind of boomer show that he would watch.
No way.
No, I've never seen it, but I am gonna watch a couple episodes before the set releases, so then I'll know what I'm talking about. So it's on my to watch list, so it's gonna happen. But yeah,
can you watch it and then make a YouTube video that's like no longer than 5 minutes summarizing the story of Doctor Who for me?
Can you summarize all 15 seasons?
Yeah, that's
of
what I was
Doctor
gonna
I don't
say.
want to
Aren't
watch
there,
15 seasons
episodes. That's so much. All
right,
effort.
Seth,
But yes,
there's
I'll
your
get
homework.
I will get right on that.
Consider it studying for work.
Good old Universes Beyond, making me learn pop culture. Unfortunately, well, I don't.
It's working.
It is, yeah, little by little.
It's working.
I don't think we have time for fish mail this week, but Richard, next week we might. So where should people send their fish mail if they want them answered maybe at some point?
All right. Send your questions over to @MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail on Twitter or X. Are we really doing this? Is it called X now?
It's
on I'm
calling it Twitter.
On the place where you have hashtags, send it to us, MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions next week.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 449 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So, Richard Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we'll be back next week to talk about whatever goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, have an amazing week, everyone. And this is the crew signing out.